We are following breaking news this morning. Later this morning, the city of Seattle will announce a move to vacate all misdemeanor pot possession cases that were prosecuted before the legalization of marijuana in 2012.
So Brandy's here. This would impact thousands of people, and this also goes back decades.
Yeah, and one of my big questions is this sort of more ceremonial, or is there any actual real impact for the individuals who have been prosecuted for misdemeanor pot possession, who do have this on their record right now? I want to bring in our legal analyst, Bremner. She's joining us over the phone to try to make sense of some of this. Ann, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So answer that question for me. Is there any real impact here for people who have one of these convictions on their record?
Well, yes and no. I mean, you were correct in what you said. There's really not a big impact. However, a person that is now subject to this vacation of their conviction or convictions can say, I've never been convicted of a crime when asked on an application of any kind. So that's the difference in reality.
But if someone were an employer were to run their name and their criminal history, would this still show up in some capacity?
Absolutely, and it's going to show up, Brandy, in a number of places. It's going to show up in local law enforcement records, state patrol, and also in the court file. And if an individual wants to come in and try and expunge or vacate or delete any of those records, they have to go to those various agencies to make those kinds of requests.
Have to be some work done on that person's behalf. Last question for you. You follow the legal system very closely. You know a lot of elected prosecutors, a lot of elected leaders. Do you think that other cities or counties or states will follow in line with this decision?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brandy. I don't know, because I think part of the reason here was that there was disparate treatment, at least cited in the press release, or disparate impact is cited in the press release from the mayor's office and the city attorney, and that was part of the reason for the vacation. The fact is, we usually don't make what's called an ex post facto law that says we're going to go back and subject people to a law today that wasn't in place, 20 years ago. But this one, of course, is favorable to individuals. I think that we're very progressive in this city, and I think it's the right decision, especially in light of the fact that marijuana is legalized. But let's see if it follows course or other people follow the same course outside of King County in Seattle.
All right, Ann Bremner, we appreciate your time this morning. And certainly the number she was talking about there with the city of Seattle saying there has been a disparate impact references the number of people of color who were targeted or arrested for these types of crimes versus white individuals, and those numbers are much higher. I want to read you, Mayor Jenny Durkin just released this editorial that was posted in The Stranger a couple minutes after this announcement came through. She said in part, I saw firsthand the war on drugs. Keep in mind, she's a former United States attorney. I saw firsthand the war on drugs, including its devastating impacts on people, especially people of color and their families. People's lives were ruined for misdemeanor marijuana offenses. Too many here in our community faced huge legal bills and fines or had a harder time getting loans, apartments, and good-paying jobs. She went on to say that she hopes the actions that the city of Seattle has taken today will, quote, lay the foundation for other cities and counties and states to act as well. Interesting to hear Ann Bremner say that you could technically if this impacts you, and I'm sure there are people watching who this does, that you could technically apply for a job and say, I haven't been convicted of anything if this was the only thing on your record, but still if your name was pulled by a police officer or for certain background checks, there could still be some remnants of this on your record.
So that is the problem, is knowing how far does this go when they take this off of records.
Yeah, and certainly a press conference at 10 a.m. with the mayor. We're expecting the city attorney to be there as well. We're going to be there. Okay. And we hope to get some of those questions answered as to, is this just vacating them, or is the city taking some steps to try to rectify some of the impacts that these convictions have had on individuals' lives?
All right, Brandy, thank you.
Yeah.